And we are live. Hello, 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 everybody.
Good
We are,
evening. Good evening.
How y'all doing out there?
we're going to give everybody a chance to get in. We're going to do our share, give everybody a chance to do that like and share.
And like and share. Like and share.
Yes. Did it come up for you guys? Just a quick notation. I'm just looking for it to see if it came up on your end. If you've seen it on a royalties post. Either way, I don't see it, but it's all good because we can always restream. That's good. I don't see it on my end. But in any event, I just want to thank everyone who is here with us this evening. We are so excited to be here in conversation in our active listening session with my friend, my brother, all the way from Tampa, Florida, Brother Long Boy. If y'all don't know about him, y'all need to know about him. Look him up on YouTube, Spotify. What's the other channels listed? He on everywhere platform. His music is hot to death. I love him. We met about 3.5 years ago, and I'm just excited that he could be here with us this evening as we enter into the throne room to talk about our mental wellness, taking on this healing challenge once again for the month of August. And of course, my other friend over here this way, of course, she is always with me. My friend, my co-partner, everything to me. I'll tell y'all, she's everything to me. I love her life. My co-host for today, Miss Jackie Oliver. Y'all, welcome to the throne room, the space that we created to purge from our issues, heal from our wounds, and find rest so that we may transform into that which we have been called and created to become. And that is, y'all already know, royalty. How y'all doing today?
Y'all all right? Sound like
Yes.
an Erica Badu song. Yes, it's a good day. Any day above ground is a good day. I say so myself.
Facts. I just want to say thank y'all for having me on the show, man. That's dope. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. We're excited. I'm glad that you would be willing to come into the throne room to take the covers off. If you don't know, and this is your first time, we come in here to be curious. We come in here with an open mind. We also are vulnerable in the things that we share. We show empathy towards each other. And most importantly, we respect the process. Everybody's in their own point in time of their healing journey. We respect it. We're here for you. If you ever need to connect with us, please connect with us via either Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or even on the web at royaltynetwork.net. We're here. We want to be here with you. We want to partner with you. With that being said, we're going to jump right into it because
Oh,
my
hold up. You gotta get the disclaimer first. Gotta get the disclaimer.
we don't know everything. We don't claim to know everything. This is
Nice.
just conversation. We are starting the conversation off to be able to bear witness to what it is that we need to do as communities, as families, as organizations to begin to have the real transparent conversations to help each other gain our own healing. So we all might have our individual degrees and things and all that stuff that we might do in our own right, and we do that in our everydays. But that's not what this space is about. We don't claim to know it all. We actually don't want to know it all. We want to be able to connect with other people just like you for us to be able to help each other move to the place of our own healing. Did I do it
Yes.
good? Did I do it good, Jackie?
You did a great job. Great job.
All right, all right. So we're gonna get started. This afternoon, and really this afternoon, if you guys all know, we kind of been talking through this mental health thing for the last couple of weeks, and we really
Yes.
focused in on it in the month of July, as that was Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And so as we move from July into August, I really want us to talk about what it looks like to be mentally well. So what's our mental wellness, and what does that mean for us? And some of the things that I thought about when I talked about mental health was that we oftentimes talked about it from a perspective whereby we just dealt with the traumatic events or even psychiatric diagnoses that we essentially need to overcome. And so during our session today, I really want us to focus on what mental wellness looks like, and how do we begin behaving and thinking and living in the ways that will essentially help us see life differently. And so today I have brought my friend here to really give us some insights into his own story, so that we might begin to kind of dismantle some of the beliefs that we might have about how we show up and become present in life, and also how we become present in other people's lives, and how that essentially impacts our own mental well-being. So I'm excited for today, and I'm just going to start it off with the first question is, Longboy, tell us a little bit about your story, and tell us about some of the things that really have impacted you through your course of life.
Well, my story, I started running the streets at the age of 11, 12 years old. I started real early, stealing cars. That was a big thing back in 98. And, everybody that I was riding with, they started dying at an early age, getting into police chases, crashes with the police. And, after like a year of that, I realized, man, that ain't for me. My mom, she was on drugs. I'm very open with that. She open with it. She was on drugs for 18 years. She been clean. She hit 16 years. So all glory to the Father for that. So, Pops, he was around, but he wasn't in the household, and that's a big thing for me. When the pops ain't in the household, it's like you more vulnerable and more likely to put your hands in things that you got no business really. So me and my brother, we continue to run the streets, just living that lifestyle, man, and having babies early, and not having no structure, no real goals for life, and just that lifestyle, man. It'll consume you like majorly.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. I keep hearing my own, so I want to make sure that no one else is hearing that same feedback on the other end. I don't know if it's me or not. It is
I'm
me.
I'm
Jack,
connected to Wi-Fi, but I keep glitching.
you're actually good on our end. I'm
Okay.
gonna come back in and Jackie, I want us to kind of go into the conversation about what made you make the changes that you have made, because people just heard a glimpse of your story, but it's really good for us to kind of hear what are those changes that you've made, and why you made them.
Okay. The changes I can take you back. It was like 2000, the end of 2013. I went through some things spiritually. You know, rest now. The Bible talks about we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and just that spiritual realm. I was just going through it real bad, but I didn't understand, that God had a calling on my life. So everything that I was going through, it was really a part of His plan. Just to go a little deeper, like Job, when the Lord broke Job down and took everything from him, I kind of went through that. I lost all my material stuff. I lost all my money. I lost my relationship. I lost everything. God had to me sit me down and
I think
mold.
So listening to Long Boy's story, he has a very familiar story, especially the part of the family unit, and then when you look at the history, um, that in itself is the common story in the minority communities. I'm intrigued how he's going to come back in and talk to us about the the way his story went after he was talking about. Yes, he was talking about how
It
he
kicked me
ran.
out. You hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, it
we
just
got
kicked
you.
me out.
I was just talking about what you were saying of your story, and I'm hoping you could come back in on that piece of the story where you talk about how, just like Job, you lost everything, running the
Yeah.
streets and doing
Yeah.
the thing. If you could
Yeah.
pick up
So
right there.
okay, so basically, like, to go in depth a little bit, I had like a new car. I bought it off street money. I had like $40,000 street money, and I kept like tripping out, like, man, telling one of my homies, man, something going on. I don't feel right.
Mm.
It's something weird about the situation, how I'm feeling right now. And it just started to get stronger and stronger, and out of nowhere, I just started losing everything. It just started going.
Mhm.
I'm like, I know how to manage it. Like, I've done it before, but why is it just everything just leaving me like this? And I
Mm.
end up like just down and out, just in the room praying, calling out to God, like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? And that's
Hmm.
starting to read the Bible and understand, like, about spirits and demons, and and how God work and callings. I didn't understand that it was a calling. So I end up getting into a church. First, God end up having me to repent. That's key right there. So once I
Mhm.
repented, I left space for God to move in my life and really help me understand what he was doing and what I was going through. And I end up just staying down and getting into church, learning about the word, learning about God, fellowshipping, just soaking in it. And eventually he released me after like 6 months. He's like, all right, that's enough time. You understand what I did for you, and that's where I picked up on the music, and I jumped immediately into prison ministry, started traveling, going to different prisons, speaking about God, and just doing his will.
So
I've been
I have a question. You're really intriguing, because a lot of people, in listening to your story, a lot of people can't cope with loss,
yeah.
and that's where they lose it. That's when their emotional and mental fall apart. How did you, in that time of loss, hold it together, or did you hold it
Right.
together in that time of loss?
Can you repeat that one more time? You had glitched out.
How did you, in that time of loss? Because most people can't cope when they start losing stuff, especially when you're on top. And I know how that fast money, you
Yeah,
always on top, right?
yeah. So
How
so
did you cope with that?
well, I ain't gonna lie. It was hard. It was hard. Plenty tears. Plenty nights crying, like, plenty times wanting to I had put the weed down. God took the desire for the alcohol, for the weed, for the cigarettes, the tobacco. He took that desire, but there was plenty times that I wanted to run back to that because that's all I knew. So the only thing that really sustained me in that time was learning about his promises, learning
Right.
about, you know what I'm saying, learning about what he said he would do if I do my part. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
That's
saying?
good.
So that's really what kept me in there, like, seriously, like. And as I'm reading the word, and it's saying, like, if you don't have the spirit of Christ, like, you won't understand these things. So somebody that's listening, if they might not understand where I'm coming from, but God is the only
Right.
thing that helped me in there.
Right.
Seriously.
That's good. There's so much. I'm so mad that I don't got you for this whole entire time. I just want to say there's so much to you that's so heavy.
Yeah,
It's so good that I just
but
want
it's
to.
all good though. I like it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring
I
you
like
back on.
it.
I'm
We'll
gonna
have
have
to
to
do it
get
again
you.
when I have more time.
Yes, we're gonna have to get that. So, brother James, he said this was a great testimony, bro, and he was really excited for what it is that you were sharing with us. And I believe that there's the stuff that's really real inside of here that I want other people to really gain hold of is the process by which you got to where you got to, because God wasn't always at the forefront, or was God? And if God was, where was he when you were in the midst of getting the dirty money? You know what I'm saying? Where was God when you were moving in and out of the spaces that you were moving, whereby it then made you like, oh my God, you know what, something ain't right, let me go to my Bible. That was all a process, and that's the part
And
that
that's
I really
crazy because I'm connected to the Wi-Fi.
I know. Don't worry about it. We gonna figure it out. The enemy trying today, okay? We ain't gonna let the enemy get that today, okay?
You know, Monique, he said something that was key when he said it didn't feel right. You know,
Right.
sometimes we connect that to our gut, we connect that to other things, and you asked the question and answered it right there. Where was God? He
Yeah.
was there all the time. He was giving them a heads up. It wasn't feeling right, and they always say if it don't sit right in your spirit, then it ain't right. Something wrong.
Right.
And that's what we have to look at when we look at mental wellness. Sometimes we look at for an outside trigger or an outside indication, and all the indications are right within us. You know, that gut feeling, that sixth sense, or that feeling of uneasiness is our bodies and our discernment telling us something's wrong. And you
Yeah.
gotta, especially when you're in the streets, you gotta follow your gut. That's the only thing that keeps you alive, is following your gut and the sixth sense.
That instinct, right? You know, when you go into a place, if it's feeling uneasy, you gotta look over your shoulder. You already know what it is what time it is. It's either you gonna keep that peace, or you gonna walk out to keep the peace, right? And
Yeah.
we lose, but people don't always talk about that part of the process, right? People normally just jump from one end. Oh, okay, I was over here, my life was broke, busted, and disgusted. I was out here doing all that I do, and then they jump from that to now, look, God made me whole and well, and we forget that
Yes,
the
they
process.
missed that whole big piece.
That's
Exactly.
what I want us to really hone in on as we talk about what it is to journey toward our mental wellness. So
Mm.
it's good for us to have conversations about healing, but it doesn't do us any good if we're not talking about the process in which it takes, that place where we have to get on our knees and do the crawling, and we have to go back to the infancy stage of being able to see life again. That is where we need to begin the process to have the conversation, so that people will be able to really hold on to whatever it is that they need to hold on to help them toward their healing.
That bottom, that rock bottom that we hit. A lot of people don't come from or talk from the perspective of the rock bottom. And when you're
Yeah,
in the rock bottom, you need all the motivation, hope, inspiration that you can get.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cause yeah, I went from that to washing dishes at a restaurant for $9.45 an hour. That hurt it. That hurt it. That hurt it so bad. On top of that, child support. And my wife holding the weight. We weren't married at the time, but her holding the weight, that hurt it too. As a man with pride, we want to hold that weight. We want to take on them responsibilities, but it hurt it. It hurt it. When they say when you come with God, it don't always be super easy. I understood that, but it's the best thing ever that happened to me, honestly.
Mm.
That's good. Yeah, I like the fact that you was honest, and the fact that when you went to the job making $9 an hour, and that you had to bust dishes, and that the child support came in,
Yeah.
that really speaks to what I see the majority of my brothers go through, right? And then
Yeah.
the fact of, not was it just, did it just impact you, but it impacted your then girlfriend, your now wife.
Yeah.
And so all of that in itself speaks about its own healing journey, right? So each one of those things was heavy for each one of you. And I could only even imagine what your children had to go through as
Yeah.
they experienced your transition as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. This is good. I'm glad that you were able to join us. I'm sad that you have to go. Your time is dwindling down, but we're gonna make a part 2 of this because I believe that there's something that you really need to say, and that we're experiencing the issues that we're experiencing
Yeah.
because the enemy want to stop you from saying what you got to say. So we're gonna get all of this together. This is the first time this has happened to us. But we're going to get all of this together. We're going to bring you back into the throne room, and we're going to continue this conversation in the way that I believe that a lot of people need to hear. Because again, your story and your testimony is a phenomenal one. I just when I first met you, I was just like,
Yeah.
he got it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's much love to you, but we know you have to go. If you have one thing that you want to leave for the people, what one thing would that be? What one thing do you want them to know about their own healing journey?
Um, I had to. Okay, so in the lifestyle that we come from, we taught about emotions, not to cry. Um, like me and you spoke earlier. If you don't do this, you soft. If you don't do that, you ain't right. If you don't do that, this my message to y'all. Serving God is cool. Being married to one person is cool. Going to school is cool. Respecting elders is cool. All that is cool. All the gun toting, they tell you if you ain't got a body, you ain't cool. If you don't go to school, you ain't cool. That's baloney. You know what I'm saying? It's the opposite way around. Culture dumbing us down. But serving God is cool, man. That's everything to me. Everything.
That's true. That's truth. I love that. Well, you have safe travels as you get onto your journey and get on to work. And we can't wait to invite you back into the throne room. We're going to have fun. So we probably going to see you in 2 weeks. But we're going to make sure it's a time that you can come in and sit down and we got this all the way together.
Gotcha. All right, I'm ready. Just let me know. Thank y'all for having me. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Long Boy. Hope to see you real soon.
All right, y'all enjoy.
All right. Bye-bye. Jackie, I'm excited. I was happy to have him, but I'm really sad that we had encountered all of this technical stuff. We ain't never encountered that, but it's all good.
Yes.
You know why? Because he left us with some great nuggets. Number one, that is cool, right? Like it's cool to serve God. It's cool for us to do what we doing. It's cool to be on the journey towards our wholeness and in the process of our healing. And so, as we continue to do this, I just really want us to think about what it is that we have that might be stifling us from being able to take the next steps and going to the next part of our own healing journey. What is it that is in front of us that's keeping us kind of locked down and making us feel like Long Boy say, it just don't feel right? What's the thing that just don't feel right in your life? What's the thing that people aren't really understanding about who you are and what you can offer? Maybe that's the place to start. Maybe that's the place for us to be able to see ourselves beyond ourselves and what is some of the thinking that can interfere with the ways in which you do life. Go ahead, Jackie. I know
You know,
that
you
hit
said,
nerve.
you said something that was key, and I was reflecting on what Long Boy said. Um, Tapping into our faith is a good place to start. Tapping into your higher power. Um, some people call it the universe. Tapping into something bigger and greater than yourself. And this is something that in healing, when I went through my healing after surgery, one of the things that my orthopedic surgeon said to me was, because of your faith, you're healing faster. When you
Mm,
have that higher power to tap into to help you on your journey, whether it's in recovery from surgery, mental illness, physical illness, your faith, your belief that it gets better and that it won't be like this always is something that carries you to that point of wellness, that point of being whole. And listening to Long Boy's story, he talked about when he hit rock bottom, when you lost everything, a brand new car, $40,000 cash in your pocket, to go from that to $9.25 emotionally, that he had to be sick. But I
Yeah,
think about it, you got to be sick to go from 40,000 cash in your pocket to $9.25 an hour.
physically and emotionally, right?
Yes,
Mentally, everything.
yes.
I know.
Mentally,
I've been there.
it's like culture shock, right? And to see that, he didn't stay there, he didn't get stuck there, but he found within himself the strength to say, "Hey, it's bigger than me." To be able to tap into a higher power and say, "You know what? What's left of my life?" And when you look about at mental wellness, the dimensions of wellness, tapping into that spiritual wellness, knowing that your life and your purpose here on earth is bigger than what you're doing right now. That helps catapult you into your next. And a lot of people get to that aha moment and say, you know what, there got to be more to me than this.
That's
What do
good.
you do when you're at that place? And I tell people all the time, when I get a problem with my Samsung, I'm looking at the Samsung manual. I'm not going to the JBL manual. I'm going to the Samsung manual. So when we look at our lives and see where we are and to know that there's more, who to go to better than the person that created us, the creator himself, right? So
Right.
that's part of our mental wellness, understanding why we're here, what our purpose is. Are we fulfilling our purpose here in the earth? Are we doing what we were created to do? And from that perspective, once you get in alignment with what your purpose is, not only will you sleep better, you'll feel better doing what you're doing. Some of us go to jobs every day, and it's just that, a job, a chore. But when your work life and your purpose lines up, it gotta be that aha moment that says, you know what, I'm here. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's good. So, when you said that the finding your purpose and it's not a you were talking about it's bigger than me. What that brought back to my memory is the class that I teach on the purpose driven life, right? And I think about the process of finding your purpose, right? And understanding that life is not about you. And that's the first chapter in the book that we cover is life is not about you, right? That yeah, it's about you, but it's not about you. It's what are you going to do? How are you serving the other? What are you going to do to what are the gifts that are in you that are have been gifted to you to be gifted to another, right? And so
Mhm.
when I think about the process and I read our viewer comments about it has to be an opposite of the pain and suffering. What we tend to not realize is that the healing process, the process and understanding us, the process of becoming, there's pain, there's a breakthrough, and anything to be able to come to its new self has to go through some type of transition. And in that transition, there is an experience that is uncomfortable. And when we get uncomfortable, we correlate that to a sense of pain, a sense of grieving. All of these feelings come out within our process, our healing journey process. And so we have to be willing to be and oh my God, when you said that, it was I can see the hurt, like he had to be sick. That sick meant that he was willing to get up on an altar and sacrifice, be a
Sacrifice.
living sacrifice
Yes,
for something,
yes.
right? That meant that he had to see himself in a place where he was humble enough to say, I don't know it all and I don't got it all together. And so there is something I will achieve my greater by I don't know why this just came to my mind, but we think we're losing and we think we're getting
Yeah,
less.
yeah.
But when we
Yes.
actually come down, that's actually where we have the ability to then be elevated to the space and the place that we were supposed to be. Right. And so we then find and we move from the state of always seeking happiness on the external stuff to moving to the state where we then become joyful because we find joy and peace in another place. And so I again want to just say shout out to Long Boy for coming in and taking the cover off
Absolutely.
sharing his
Yes.
story, because his story just brought about so much. In the little bit that I heard, it brought about so much about who I am, right, and where we should be going with our own thoughts and our own behaviors and our actions. What I'm just thinking about is, dang, life ain't about me. So where I'm at right now, it is what it is, but I have an opportunity to make it better. But the way I'm going to be able to make it better is by almost releasing myself. I gotta be willing to take on the less. That even though I might not have the 40 G's in my pocket, or I ain't on a block hustling and wearing Coogee and wearing the red bottoms and all of that stuff, that I'm still winning, because that gives me an opportunity to learn something. That gives me an opportunity to gain awareness about who I am and be able to see my family and my children differently.
Yes.
So I'm thanking him for giving us that insight, because oftentimes we lose sight of the things that we really should be focused on. He just told us to refocus.
Refocus. There you go. And the refocusing, and when you were talking, this song that Fantasia sings came to mind. Sometimes you do have to lose to win.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah.
if you look at it, you're not really losing because you've learned from it. So it's a win-win situation. And he said it perfectly. It wasn't until he lost that he really tapped into himself, tapped into,
Mm-hmm.
a real reality of his situation, which is, this is not what you should be or where you should be forever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes us going in those moments of pain, in those dark moments, in those, moments when we're alone, really seeing ourselves as well, as whole, and evaluating. I tell all the time, self-reflection is always good. And that's one of the things. We wait till we get to the Lodi bar. We wait till we get to the down place. But you don't always have to be in a down place for self-reflection. I do it every day. What could I have done different to get a better outcome? What could I have done? And then my question to God is, did what I do please you?
Mm.
So we have to always do self-reflection and wellness. When you're, doing wellness, even your nutrition coach, what did you eat for the day? You write it down. You go back and look at what you ate. You watch your in weightlifting. You write your regimen down. You keep it. And so why would it be different in mental wellness? Self-reflection is always key to wellness, to wholeness, because you got to see, if you don't look at yourself and see how you see yourself in comparison to how others see you, you'll never see the change. You'll never see transformation, because seeing it one way is lopsided. But having people that you're accountable to, saying, "Hey, I need you right now, just for only for the moment. Walk with me in this moment. Be with me in this moment." And some people, you don't need them to say nothing or do nothing. Just be present, to know that they're there. And this is part of being well.
So what happens when we can't see ourselves? When we see ourselves, or when we see ourselves as ugly? Because I recall moments and times in my life where it was like I didn't want to look at myself, because I didn't even know who I was at that present moment. And it was hard for me to be able to see that, or not even to see. I might have seen it, but I didn't want to admit that I was in a really busted state, right? Like I was messed up. I was in a dark place and I didn't even want to see myself, right? So how do we begin to see ourselves, especially if we don't have a pretty view of ourselves?
That's something I'm still learning, because I've just recently, in the past decade, learned to see myself as God, to a certain extent, as God sees me. Um,
What did you
it,
have to do?
what did I had to do? I had to, one, shut out the world's view of how people should be. Somebody my age,
Mm-hmm.
somebody with the successes I've had, and I had to really look at it from a perspective of where I am, where I want to be, where God wants me to be. Because if you start looking at yourself through the average lens, you never mount up to anything. Because society says you're supposed to have long hair, blue eyes, blonde, Coke bottle shape, and in no way am I any of that. So I had to see, like, okay, look at my gains, look at where I used to be that I'm not anymore, and really sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back and, encourage yourself and say, you know what? I may not be up there, but I'm better than I was when I was back there. I'm a step ahead. And then sometimes we look for other people to affirm us. We have to affirm ourselves. I
Mm.
laughed because one day I was talking to my nephew, and I've always been a big girl, and that was one of my things I used to advantage when I was younger. And I went to pick my nephew up from school, and we were talking. He was like, "Auntie, the boy called you fat." And I said, "Tell me something I don't know. I'm bigger than the average person." And
We
he's
know
like, "You not
about
mad?"
it.
I said, "No. I mean, I'm big, but you know what? Look, I wear it well, as they say. I'm not sick with diabetes, high blood pressure, heart condition, none of that." I said, "So I'm good. The fact that I'm big mean I'm eating." And he
Right. Did
started
you tell them
laughing.
about when we go to
I
Africa? Some places in
Yeah,
Africa, that
I ain't
means
starving,
my belly tell me I'm rich. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yes. When I went to the Bahamas, they called me the Big Chief, and I was like, the Big Chief, yeah, the Big Chief.
All
Big Chief. Why am I the Big Chief? Oh, you got money to eat. You eating very well. You Big Chief. But
right.
and you know what? I had to then start looking at hey, if I judge myself based on the world's view or man's view, I will never be. But you know what? I'm successful in my career. I'm successful in my family life. Everything about me is successful and has been successful. It's just how I viewed it. I had to change my point of view and not because you know what, we'll never add up to somebody else. Somebody else's view, you'll be not enough this, too much of that. But you know what? And being well, you know what? I'm not on a gurney. I'm not on crutches, a walker. I ain't starving. I ain't living in the streets. I'm not doing bad. I ain't married, but I ain't got no kids either. At the same time, I'm living my best life, as the kids say. And I
Right.
laugh because you know what? Some people's best life is different, but I'm living my best life.
Yeah.
And how you see yourself change your perspective on life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Um, as I thought about what you were saying, one of the things that I realized that I had to do was really come to a place in a position where I was able to say enough is enough. Right. I had to crack down on my own self to say I'm tired. Enough is enough. Are you going to do that? Either you gonna make up in your mind. It was almost like I had to make up in my mind. I said that I wasn't gonna be a statistic. What is it that I need to do? Get moving. Right? Like it was like I had to become my own parent, right? My own
You were
chastiser.
speaking to yourself, right? You said self,
Right.
and yourself said,
Yeah.
hmm.
And then
Uh-huh.
self said, "You better get the moving." And then I said, "Okay, self." And it's
Yeah,
like, why? But well, if you don't, this is where you're going to end up. Either you're going to be locked up, you're going to be in jail, or you're going to have 50,000,000, 11,000 babies over here with a whole bunch of baby daddies, right? So either you're going to get it together, or you're going to suffer even more, right? And then not only do you suffer more, but then my heart for my children caused me to say, I wanted different for them. And
yes,
so it forced me to a place whereby I don't think my children even recognize that they are the catalyst to all of what I do. My mom calls it, she says, your children are your ministry. And so for me,
first
it
step.
was, I had to, and that's the other part about it, right? It wasn't just that I understood what my purpose was. I had to force myself to make a purpose for myself, right? So I had to talk to myself to get it together, and then I had to force myself to make a purpose for myself. I am important. I don't care whatever I was seeing, whatever. And it had nothing to do with the street. It had nothing to do with what I knew to be true in my past lifestyle. It was something that I had to forge my way to in a new place, in a new state. And it was uncomfortable. I didn't see myself. Let me tell you about something. I was telling Long Boy before we got on. If Princeton really knew, that's all I'm going to say. If Princeton really knew, there was
Yeah,
no reason for me to my background and all of that I've been through have nothing in alignment with where I went and where I have been, right? So if Princeton's only knew, if Aaron's only knew, all of those spaces that I was elevated to, I would never be in those spaces if I would have continued the journey in the same way and thought about myself in the same way. It was only until I said enough is enough and forge myself a new destination is when
Yes.
my whole mental capacity, my whole mental state of mind. I thought I was strong before, but what it took for me to change the destination, it took a whole nother level of strength that I didn't even know I had in me.
Mm-mm. It's odd. It's funny that you said that. Because I was thinking about this book that I was reading called Stepping into Greatness by Dr. Mark Sharona. And it
Mm,
talks about that refining moment when you have a defining crisis that propels you into greatness. And a lot of times, one thing we don't do is you got to trust yourself.
mm,
We wait for somebody else to tell us where to go, what to do, and sometimes you're telling yourself, and you're like, you don't second guess yourself because that's what puts us behind. We look to other people for things that we could tap into within ourselves, and oftentimes we don't think we're adequate. We don't think that we're enough. You're more than enough. You're more than equipped. When we were before you were even created, God had a plan for you and a destination and a purpose for you. And when by the time you came into from eternity into time, somewhere born in sin, shaped in iniquity, it came and we got sidetracked and we got distracted. And he said, Longboy said it right. We got to refocus, go back to the moment at hand and ask the creator, where should I be? We look for inspiration, but with all actuality, we could get all the inspiration we want until we have that motivation within ourselves, that
and
ability within ourselves to get it done. Like you said, your children was your driving force. Even with your children as your driving force, you still had to get up and do, right? Get up and be. And on this journey that I've been on the past, I've been acknowledging it, this journey of becoming.
mm,
Um, there were some things that I had to take into my own hands. I couldn't blame nobody else for. We all have those moments when, we want to say what the outside circumstances and situations contributed to the situation. In all actuality, no, what I did that put me in the place that I'm in, and then what I'm going to do to get out and stay out and keep moving forward. And that's where we have to be. In wellness, you have to make the conscious decision that I want to be better. And I'm going to go back to a conversation we had. Will thou be made whole?
yes,
Will thou?
yes, yes.
And that's what we all have to ask ourselves. Do you want to be whole? Or do you want to stay in the pity party? You can't be pitiful and powerful. You know? And that's where, in all actuality, tapping into the higher power, what you know, your faith. And this is where, as people, we look for that outward stimulation and that outward, no, we got to tap into ourselves because you know what? Sometimes you know what you want to do. You just need a little push. And it's okay to have a little push, but you can't keep having pushes. At once, sometimes you got to get a momentum going and get to doing. I'm quite sure he ain't stay at 9.25 an hour. Long boy,
Right,
quite sure, he can find something better. But you know
right.
what? You got to start. You got to start.
I appreciate what you just gave us, and I think that for what we are trying to accomplish here, in my mind, I kept saying to myself, "We keep talking about God, we keep talking about God," and I really want this platform to be an open platform, and I really want it to be something that everybody can relate to. But you know what? The reason why I can't separate God from the conversation is because that is truly the place in which I was able to transform, because it's not in our own doing that we transform, but it is in that greater thing that we transform. I think about the scripture that says we are like a tree planted by the water, and that tree, it bears good fruit, but
Yes.
we don't, the limb, we're the limbs don't bear the fruit. It's the tree, and the tree is where we get our sustenance and our resource from to be able to do that. And we have to be able to be and it's not that I'm ashamed or I don't want to speak about God or anything like that. I'm always thinking about, well, how can I connect it? There's no way for me to connect my healing, to connect my mental wellness, my whole entire well-being, because it talks about mind, body, soul, and spirit, without connecting it to a greater source, not connect it to the thing that's in me, that's bigger than me. And so I'm going to say to you, whoever is out there listening, I'm going to say this to this evening, that we are really appreciative of you coming on and listening. And as you, and I'm looking at some of my, I'm looking at our listener talk about the story of clay and God molding us and how the vase becomes beautiful from the heat through the fire. We have to recognize that there's something in someone out there that's molding us, that there's someone who wants to see us beautiful, and that we have the ability to be recreated and molded to be beautiful. And there's no way that I can honestly sit here and say that that happens on our own accord, because we don't have the strength and the willpower to do that on our own. And so if the listener who's out there to say, I don't believe in God, well, what I'm going to say is to you is, what is it that you believe in? There has to be some, and if there's something that you believe in that's greater than you, then that's your thing. Then that's your thing. That's your God. That's what you put out there and you created to say that that's what it is for you. And you go pursue that good thing. You pursue it with the vengeance, with the passion, all that's in you to become that greater you.
Woo!
Way you gonna get that wellness.
Exactly. And when you find, in working with people, I find that when you find fulfillment, there are a lot of people that are bitter at life and their circumstances because they don't feel that they've lived a life and they're fulfilled with the life they live. Then start today. You can start today. You can start right now. Finding out and understanding purpose is key, because when you start living out purpose, everything about you, it takes the limitations off. It takes the confinement off. And you won't align yourself with things that aren't aligned with your purpose, which takes you to a place of wholeness and wellness. And I say this all the time. My prayer is always, if it's not in your will, I don't want to do it. I want to stay so aligned with the will of God for my life that if it doesn't line up, I don't want no parts of it. I don't want nothing to do with it. And that's where we have to, challenge yourself.
Oh no, she froze, and she was about to say something real good, but you know what? We do have to challenge ourselves to do and seek our greater. We have to challenge ourselves and our own thinking, and we have to challenge, even be willing and courageous enough to challenge other people's thinking about how they see life. And that's exactly what we're doing right here in the throne room. We are challenging ourselves. We're challenging our thinking. We're challenging the way each other views life. We're bringing ourselves to a place of awareness so that we might be able to grow to that next space. We're going to wrap up today because we keep encountering all of these issues. But you know what? I know that the word that needed to be heard today was heard, but I know that we're doing a great thing right now. And I know that it's going to continue to be a blessing. I know that it's going to be continue to bless those who are streaming in at a later time. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in and listening and sharing and being a part of the conversation. And what I will say to you now is, don't be afraid to connect with us and sit in and share your thoughts, to ask your questions. We want to be able to interact with our audience, but we will be back here in the throne room next Wednesday at 5 p.m. for our Healing Challenge Mental Wellness Edition. What I will say is next week is going to be an awesome time because we are going to be now talking about Wear My Handicap sticker. We're going to be bringing in another special guest, and we're going to be taking the cover off as we journey towards our own individual healing. Feel free to connect with us via Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We are wanting to hear from you. But until we see you next time, you guys be blessed. Thank you for visiting with us this evening. Bye-bye.